So the Philippines ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the optional protocol aiming at the abolition of the death penalty. And we were so jubilant at that time because we thought that we would be able to rest. But then, of course, reality dictates that society wants to be safe. And if there are what we call heinous crimes, then the emotions start running and they would want justice or swift justice right away. So, legally, we're not able to come back and say we don't want the optional protocol anymore. There's no opt-out provision in the optional protocol. And if we did legislate a return to the death penalty, then we would be in serious breach of international law. But then suddenly, an autocrat came and somebody who was tough on crime and tough on drugs. And he thought that the solution to all criminality in the Philippines was actually the death penalty. And that's where our world started to overturn. We were not so prepared to push back because there was popular support for this president who said that he was going to fight for the victims of crime. And we were also demonized in the process, so we were hard put at conveying the message that death penalty is not the answer to criminality. It was very hard at first, but we thought that we would step back and think about how we were going to communicate the fact that death penalty is ineffective. It is not a deterrent to crime, and it punishes the poor disproportionately, and we wanted to ensure that the general public would accept the fact that there is a better alternative to the death penalty. And we also ensured that we had allies in the right places, including Parliament, to be able to get them as champions to rally the points that we raise about the campaign to push back against the death penalty, but not to say that we are pro-criminality. We wanted to say that there are viable alternatives that would actually address criminality in the country. So one of the things that we did was to ensure that social media was part of our communications campaign. We ensured that we gave out facts. We didn't play so much to the emotions, but we wanted to ensure that our messaging follows a fact-based approach. So one of the things that we said was to quote a decision by the Supreme Court saying that 7 out of 10 sentences of death were actually inaccurate, and the highest court actually remanded to the lower courts to do a resentencing. And this is something that's undeniable. It's a Supreme Court telling the people in a particular decision that the law restoring the death penalty at the time before we ratified, it was error prone. So that was one fact that we played around with and repackaged it in such a way that even pro-death penalty advocates cannot negate that. Second is people said, or the advocates said, but the people want it. And most surveys were very superficial. So what we did, and I was in the Commission on Human Rights at that time, was we did the first ever comprehensive national survey on opinions about the death penalty. And we were able to isolate the opinion, the hardcore pro-death penalty advocates, and it was not overwhelmingly popular. It was in fact only 30% of the population actually wanted the death penalty. But if you take a look into their motivations and their persuasions, you would find that these people still believe that killing is wrong. it dispenses justice when it does not. And when we present them with facts like the error rate of judges in sentencing people to death, they would be taken aback and they would say, oh, but if it's a perfect justice system, then yes, we would be for the death penalty. But no jurisdiction in the world has a perfect justice system. It's run by humans and therefore is error prone.